I have had the honour of being very much involved in two significant church-related blessings: the dedication of a church and the blessing of a church bell. The first was shortly after I arrived in Glasgow as parish priest of St. Columba's in Maryhill. I arrived in October 2005 and was soon told by parishioners about the forthcoming formal dedication of the church to take place in a few months' time. The Archbishop and his Master of Ceremonies had the date in their diaries. The catering arrangements could be sorted out nearer the time, but my first and pressing task was to order 12 dedication candle holders and sconces to be mounted on the walls of the church in time for the dedication liturgy. Rather tellingly, this proved a more difficult job than I expected. Dedications of churches are, alas, fairly rare these days. One reason for the rarity is that, unless there are very unusual circumstances, the dedication takes place only once in the life of a church. In the case of St. Columba's, Glasgow, the church building had been completed during the Second World War. The consecration of the church was, however, delayed, as there was the requirement, I do not know if the requirement is still in force, that for a church to be formally dedicated, it needed to be fully paid for. I presume the church had been fully paid for a long time before 2005, but for whatever reason, the ceremony had not taken place. Anyway, the supplier I phoned could only locate 6 dedication candle holders and sconces, not 12, and had to check with other suppliers across the country for the rest, and I had to do quite a bit of phoning as well. Thankfully, we managed to obtain the necessary candle holders and sconces in time. You had to also get them to match. The liturgy of the dedication of a church is very memorable, beautiful, and moving. It is a pity that most Catholics in Britain will probably never experience it. It's for that reason that I will say a few brief words about it. I particularly remember the small fire on the altar in which incense was burnt. Despite our precautions, the wooden altar top got a little scorched. I also remember that the Archbishop went around the church to anoint the building with chrism at points near to the 12 dedication candles. Holy water was also used. It was as though the church was being baptized and confirmed. It was as if the building were a living thing, that the vivifying power of God can use even inanimate matter to his greater glory. The second significant blessing was of the newly installed bell in this tower in 2013, I think it was. The bell that tolls before office and other liturgies, and also marks the elevation of the body of Christ and of the precious blood during the Mass. Again, as though the bell were a living thing. To convey the sacredness of what takes place in this chapel, the bell is traditionally given a name, as though the bell were alive to proclaim to this city of Oxford the good news of Jesus Christ. In the case of our bell, its name is Bede, called after Father Bede Jarrett, who in a sense founded this priory along with its chapel. I wasn't, of course, around when this church was dedicated on this date in 1929, but we celebrate the anniversary of the dedication every year as a solemnity. As one of the prefaces of the Mass for the dedication of a church beautifully expounds, something of the theology underlying what we celebrate today, and I quote this preface: "For you have made the whole world a temple of your glory, that your name might everywhere be extolled, yet you allow us to consecrate to you apt places for the divine mysteries. And so we dedicate joyfully to your majesty this house of prayer built by human labor. Here is foreshadowed the mystery of the true temple. Here is prefigured the heavenly Jerusalem." The prayer of the preface refers to the heavenly Jerusalem. In the book of Revelation, chapter 21, the New Jerusalem does not stay apart from the world in its material reality. Instead, it descends from heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband, to come together, to be united, the transfiguring reality of God bringing about the new Jerusalem that takes up and embraces the world in which we live, including its materiality. The setting aside of special places as sacred thus in no way suggests a disparagement of the rest of the world. As the prayer of the preface suggests, we set aside special places not to despise the rest of the world, but for both the practical purpose of establishing a fixed place for prayer and liturgy, and as a sign that the whole world is meant for the glory of God. In a fallen world in which at least some of God's creation is used for what is at variance with God's purposes, we need special places to remind us of what the whole world is called to be. Many a liturgy has been celebrated, many a sermon has been preached, many a song has been sung, and many a heartfelt prayer has been uttered in this church since 1929. And those participating online are surely included in the tally. But only God knows the full extent and value of it all. May the Lord bless us all. Bless all those who have gone before us, and bless those who have yet to come to this place in person or online, in order to raise heart and mind to God, the living God and creator of all things, visible and invisible, material and spiritual.